This
to record?
conference will now be recorded.
All right, seeing that it's 7:01, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Session PENHC 02 of 2022. Call this to order. Item number 1. Second, emergency exits. Everybody knows how to get out of wherever they are. And that, so if you have an emergency, do what you need to do, please. To committee members, and happy to see everybody in attendance tonight. Declarations of pecuniary interest can be made at this point in time or at any point in time during the meeting. Item number 4, we have the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have a mover to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, please? Moved by John Riley, seconded by Barbara Jalaface. And if any objections, seeing none, the agenda is approved. Number 5, approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was 01 of 2022, which was Thursday, February 17th of 2022. Are there any corrections, comments, anything to do with those minutes from any of the members who were in attendance? Seeing none, can I have a mover to accept the minutes of our meeting 01 of 2022? Moved by John Riley, and a seconder, please. Jerry or Barbara? I need a seconder. Seconded by Barbara. Any objections to that? Seeing none, the minutes of our 01 2022 meeting are approved. Before we get into what we were talking about previously, public question period. Okay, somebody's just come on and we're getting some feedback there. Before I ask for anybody from the public questions, I'm going to do what I always do as an introduction to the planning committee. So this is the Planning, Environment, and Natural Heritage Committee. We are an advisory committee to council. We will be reviewing the report and the applications tonight. Our job, again, emphasizing advisory. We do not make the final decisions on this. Council does, but we will be discussing it and giving advice and our feelings about the application to council, who will be dealing with this at another meeting of the council, but it is council who do the legal statutory decisions on this. So having given that introduction for clarity, and again, because this is online, so if anybody is watching this after the fact, they can see that it's clear that we're an advisory committee. So now our agenda item number 6, public question period. I see one caller here and I see some others. Is there anybody from the public that has any questions regarding tonight's meeting? And seeing and hearing none, then that is it for public question period. Thank you, everybody. Now we're moving into the issue of tonight's meeting. But before we do that, let's get back to what we were discussing before we started to record this meeting. We have the printed package that all 5 members of the committee got. When I get that printed package, unless there are some other recommendations or advice from anybody, I'm assuming that what was delivered to my house is the complete package. And you know, as John points out, as volunteers, and that I'm assuming what we got. I got the planning report, and that's everything that we need to be deliberating on this issue. So, David, John, I guess I share your concern that if in fact there was some advice this afternoon by email or somewhere, or if it was incumbent on us to go online to the Town of Mono website and click on a link there to see, John, did you say 35 documents or 35 pages? 35 documents. John, you're muted.
I counted up 35 individual separate documents, as well as some maps that we hadn't seen in our hard copy package.
Okay, I share your concern. Frankly, that is a concern. I had no idea that was available, or that was something that we should have been looking at. And quite frankly, today I was dealing with a broken down freezer and a whole bunch of food in it that was defrosting. So I was not on the computer. I'm serious. I'm not joking when I say that about the freezer. But the point is, you know, we're all, and Jerry may well have been out in the middle of a field somewhere. It concerns us. Yes.
Yes.
It concerns me that what we got in our package isn't all of what we should have been looking at. So before we get into this, David, maybe I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. John, you have some input here, please.
Well, for those of us who are also members on the Town of Mono Committee of Adjustment, you will recall at the last meeting, the same thing happened, and the Committee of Adjustment instructed, asked, begged the planning department to cease and desist from launching additional materials on committee members, you know, a day or two before a meeting. And it was undertaken to us by the planning department that they would find a way to deal with this. So I was just reviewing my correspondence over the last 2 years, and this has come up on multiple occasions. And it's really, frankly, it's insulting to be asked for advice and then not to be provided with the material on which advice is being sought in a timely manner. It's unprofessional. That's what it is.
John, I agree with you completely, and quite frankly, and I know that this is it's an important issue to the people who are involved with it. But given the fact that if there were 35 documents that support all of this, and I haven't seen one of those, frankly, I'm at a loss as to whether we can even proceed with this tonight. So, and I'm serious about that, but that will be up to the committee. David, I need an explanation, please, because I'm frankly blindsided. You know, when I heard this.
There are a number of documents, and so there's a link in the plan report on page 1 at the beginning and elsewhere in the report that links to those documents. There was simply too much paperwork to print out for a staff of 2. And so I made the decision that we'll link the documents, other than, of course, the usual agenda and the planning report, which is in itself comprehensive, so that those reports could be read, depending on which member might want to read one or all of them or some of them. And so the link is there to read them online. There would be hundreds and hundreds of pages to print. And we just don't have the time and the staff to do that for every time we have a meeting. So that's why they're linked. They are there. The other, I think the confusion partly arose up because comments came in today that were an email chain with Northern Gulf Design and NVCA, for which we weren't apprised of or copied with, about some site alteration works that I believe for one of the holes that the applicants got permission to commence with some limited works. Those comments came in this afternoon, well, just before noon, and they too were uploaded under the fill bylaw variance application subsection on the webpage.
Okay.
It was the quickest way to do it. And then, of course, I advised committee that they were there. So, but I want to circle back to all the documents. There are a lot of documents, and it was untenable to print them all out, Circle X bind them, and send them all out to committee members. So we have to make a decision on, depending on the scope of material, what we can send hard copy and what we can't. So in this case, because there's 3 applications, although for tonight, the primary application is a plan of condominium. That is the key one, by the way. The decision was made to link it. And as I said in the report, the plan report, that link is provided in more than one location, and it is on the front page in the memorandum section, in the title section. It says right in, documents related to the report are on the following link.
Okay, I'm seeing that here now. But you know, without you know, we don't need to be babysat or whatever. But if that is essential for what we needed to do, then there are 2 things that needed to happen, quite frankly. And Diane, I did see you put your hand up, and as soon as I'm done this, then I'll ask you to comment. But there are two things that needed to happen. One was that we needed to be informed in a more definitive and direct way to say, there are a lot of documents here, so you got to go on this site, which I do see it right there, documents related, and that, frankly, I just went direct to your report. That's number one. Second thing is, if there's that many documents, then you know, I got my package, and again, Susan, thank you for delivering it. I got my package Friday afternoon for tonight's meeting. And again, you know, we're volunteers. My broken freezer aside, you know, others have got other things. If there are that many documents, then we need to know about this a lot more than less than 1 week prior to a meeting. And that was what, you know, John was alluding to there. And I agree with him completely. And that, you know, I've been on this planning committee for over 26 years. I've seen a lot of things happen. And frankly, I can't recall something like this. So I'm going to shut up for a second here. Diane, you had your hand up. I'd like to hear your feeling about what's going on here.
Yeah, everything that you said is fine and good if it wasn't completely breaking precedent. Like, when I read documents related to this application, I hear things like supporting evidence, or if you want to look further into an issue, click on these links. Not entire environmental assessments and hydrological assessments. We need more notice than that. And if that's how we're going forward, then that's fine, but you need to tell us point blank. I have a 6-year-old, I have 2 2-year-olds, I have a small business, and my well pump just exploded. And if you think in 10 days, I can read the amount of information that is put out to us, I cannot be on this committee. I'm happy to be on this committee. I'm happy to do this work, but finding out, really, I found out an hour before this meeting that there was, you know, I emailed you, Bob, sorry to cut myself off, a few days ago, because I was going through all this and I was thinking to myself, how are we supposed to comment with the information that we have? We have comments like, there are natural heritage features, there are environmental features, there are no anticipated impacts. Like, we have this non-committal language that doesn't tell us anything about anything. How are we supposed to comment? How are we supposed to give informed feedback with this information? And I wanted to talk to you, Bob, because I thought this certainly can't be it. And I foolishly, obviously, I should have looked into it further. It says there right on the top, but because for the past years that we've been on this committee, we have been doing it this one way. I didn't think so. I don't know if I can provide comment on this, because unless you want comment on this planning report and this document here, because that's essentially all we have, and 2 maps. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, then that's fine. But if you want a more fulsome opinion, I can't give that to you tonight.
Thank you, Diane. Barbara, you know, I'm interested in your feelings about this as well.
Well, I, for one, noticed the link because it is highlighted in blue, but unfortunately, because we get hard copy, we have to do the usual manual typing of what have you. I tend to agree that there's a lot of material that we were missing, but I do think it's, well, the links were there and we should have read them. But I mean, it is a very short time frame to read that much documents. I did go through the report thoroughly. As a matter of fact, I got in the car and drove the property. I don't know if we're allowed to do that or not, but I did it anyhow because I was with the maps. I was still not clear on exactly where the roads are going to go. So that's it for me. I'm with John on some of this, but again, if we had the links sent to us prior to the package, it might have been helpful.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, your opinion or your feelings about this, please.
My feelings are the same. I think we really, I don't know whether you can't print all the stuff. I'm not prepared to, in that many pages. I appreciate what Dave's saying, but I'm not certainly prepared to read that much material in maybe in any time. And not that I can't, and not that I haven't read enough reports whenever I was manager of the telephone company. I just don't think it's part of a volunteer committee to do that. So kind of that's where I lay my hat. However, the one thing that really does concern me is that we take from some of these people that are making $100,000 a year, and nobody that I'm not putting a name on anybody, but I'm thinking of the conservation authorities that leave it to 2 or 3 hours before a meeting every damn time. And there's no excuse for that. Like if I planned my business the way that's planned, you know how long I'd be here, and it wouldn't be very long. So I think if they're asked for comments, they should be making the comments 2 or 3 weeks, month, whatever, ahead of time. And they shouldn't be commenting just for the sake of commenting, as some of that stuff is just BS to keep somebody at a desk. And I don't really agree with that. So there's my thoughts on the whole thing.
Thank you. Mayor John Creelman's online here. And John, I see that you're unmuted there. So I'm assuming that means that you'd like to speak to it. I know this is outside of the norm, but given that literally over 26 years on this committee, I've never had a situation like this before. So John, what can you add to this?
Well, Bob, I'm a bird on a wire here. Okay. That's all I am.
Oh, okay.
So let me say this. I think our committees need to get timely delivery of the materials. I think it needs to be online for the most part. If there's late arrivals, be it something that comes in, and I respect that because we have it at council. And, you know, I'm not being critical here, but the committee needs to have these things in hand before they consider the applications. You know, I've heard about paper copies and stuff like that. Like, let's get with the 21st century here. You know, like paper copies. I'm sorry, I don't understand that anymore. You know, let's get with delivery of this stuff prior to a meeting. And I don't believe that applications and things should be delayed because of late arrivals. Get everything up online so that individuals can see this and you can see it. And that's my comment. I'm a bird on a wire here. Okay.
All right.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
trying
John.
to, you know, like, I don't tend to participate in these committees, though I have a ex officio status.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw that you were unmuted, so I thought you might have wanted to have said something. David, your hand was up first, and John, so I'm going to ask David to speak to it. And then John, yes, after David, please.
Okay, thanks, Bob. In my view, the report I wrote should be sufficient information if council chooses to go forward with this meeting tonight rather than defer to dialogue on the primary application, which is plan a condominium, and hopefully make some comment and recommendation. As for the other, first of all, for the site plan application, as noted in the report, that is an administrative approval process between staff and the applicant, and we do a very fine job of undertaking site plan and design programming review. Enough said about that. As for the fill management, that's between council and the applicant. In this case, there is a PENHC and an FMP, a fill management plan, that is attending to that matter. So in my view, the report I wrote that is primarily alluding to the draft plan of condominium with background policy information is probably enough for the committee to go forward with and make some comment, review, and recommendations. If there's any further technical requirements that certain members want to weigh in on because of their expertise and background, I would think that the good consultants who are on staff here tonight can speak to any of those technical matters they wish to bring up. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you. And I do tend to agree with you about that. John, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say that I agree with that,
sorry,
but
John.
I do not want to Bigfoot my way into this thing. I'm here in part to see discussion about the process, but also to audit the discussion about the golf course. And we had a discussion at the county council committee meeting about this. And if anyone has any questions about that, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. Sorry, John Riley, you had your hand up.
I am ready, and I would like to put some comments on record and pose some questions on record. And I would just make one final passing remark to the mayor, which is that the mayor and council, I know from a lot of time spent in the office, they have excellent IT support. They're always talking to them about how to run their equipment and get it all working, and the equipment is provided to them by the taxpayer. And none of that is the case with us as volunteers. We have our own printers, we buy our own paper, we do all of it. So there is a distinction between what the town council might expect and how they make their meetings operate smoothly with the amount of material they need to deal with, and what can be done by volunteer committees who are relying on and are essentially donating our software, hardware, paper, etc. into this equation.
And like Barbara, I've driven to the site too twice, so that's on our own hook.
That's on our own hook. You're absolutely right.
John Creelman?
Thank you, John. It's duly noted, and it's a good point.
And I support what John Riley said about that as well. Diane, yes.
I just wanted to say, because I kind of flew off the handle there. My point was that it's about precedent. It's not about whether the documents are printed off or whether they are not. It is that for every meeting since I have been years on this committee, 4 years, this has been the way we've done it. And this one time it was different, which would have been fine if we had simply been notified. That is my only point. And I just got heated when I heard someone say it's too big of a tax on their time to do it. And so that got my blood pumping a little bit. But just going forward, if we're doing digital, that's fine. I don't mind. Just let me know. Don't let me believe that we're doing it the way we've always done it. Change it this one time and then we find out 1 hour before.
Diane, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. If I've missed something here, then shame on me. But as I said, it strikes me that it really should have been pointed out to us, with a little more emphasis that, oh, by the way, there's 35 documents here and you better go look at them. And that, so shame on me if I didn't pick up on that. I saw this thing about a link. I assumed that link was to the stuff that we received and that. So again, emphasizing the fact that of all the years that I've been on this committee, and frankly, this is the first time that this has happened. I'm hoping it's the last. Having said all of that, and we're not going to resolve that tonight, I do believe that we have enough material here tonight. Was it John Riley who said that we can actually comment on some of this? I think it is incumbent on us and the town of Mono to proceed and move this along for the applicant, and that to me is important. So if the rest of the committee is in agreement, there are some things that we can make some meaningful comments on tonight and pass on to council, who John Riley, as you point out, have a lot more support to get this. David, just so you don't think that I'm completely out in left field, I agree with you. To have printed off 100 pages would have been ridiculous. The request by this committee, it was always for hard copy stuff. I'm one of those, because I take them and you can see, and I highlight things and I write things down, and that you can't do that on a computer screen. So call me traditional in that way. But I agree, to have printed off 100 pages, that would have been unacceptable. But anyhow.
If I may, I appreciate that. And I think it's going to be, it would have been more than 100 pages, and Susan would have had to do it all. We just, with a staff of 2, it's virtually, it would have been impossible. She would have been there probably half the night Thursday to get that done. And that's probably no exaggeration. But anyway, the other point I want to make, though, is that this was rushed on for May, and it was originally going to go for June. So we blew out the stops to get the report done and assemble what we could and put in front of committee for tonight. And
okay,
thank you.
So if I can suggest this to the committee, we do have material here. We have participants in this process who are here to speak about things, and that if I have agreement with the committee, I think we should proceed with what we have in front of us, and we will be able to give council some meaningful comments on it. So committee, are we in agreement with that? Okay, seeing, thank you. So with that and that, so there's I'm glad this is recorded for posterity, because I think the points made by the committee are good ones, and you know, they do make sense. So with that, David, now it's your turn. Are you still there, David? There you go. So with that, David, how are you? I'm going to ask you to do your usually great job of presenting this and that. And I did talk with David earlier today, and I said, I asked him for clarity for the committee to let us know what it is that council is going to want comments on, so that we can focus our energy that way. John Riley, I see you nodding. Thank you. So David, Trotman, I'm going to turn that over to you, and you can introduce. And if there are others, I see you know, Karen and Steve, others here who you may ask to speak on it. So David, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. So this has been a desire from Mona Hills Corporation for some time to change the tenure format of ownership as a corporation, I assume to be a syndicated corporation, into through a plan of condominium. And I believe I cited in my report some presumption for that. I think some folks, for the remaining 4 potholes, pieces of title land, these sites within the compound, if I can call it that, beyond the 9 houses already built, we're having trouble probably getting lending. And so at some point, the existing owners got together and said, we need to change the tenure of ownership to condominium. It's taken a bit of time. This has been thought about for the last 2-3 years, pre-COVID, but it finally culminated in an application. Gosh, was it late last year, I think, Karen, if I'm mistaken, and we got underway with circulation of 3 applications. So it actually came in as 3. The primary one, the lead one, the draft plan of condominium. So this is, again, to change nothing but the tenure of ownership. It will, hopefully, I suppose, facilitate the development of the 4 remaining sites. But beyond that, nothing too much changes. There are 2 other applications, though. There's a site plan application for golf course related structures on the site, the existing golf course, and a field management plan that deals with the reconfiguring some of the golf course layout. But the primary application for planning committee is the planning application, which is a draft plan of condominium. I've alluded to all 3 to give some context for committee, really, and I've put in links to various key documents. They're highlighted. And the primary one, as I said, being the link to all the active planning applications. The documents are all uploaded to that planning application, which get formulated shortly after we receive an application. And of course, this is before it may go to one committee or another or a public meeting. And actually, the distinction we've made more recently is to organize those reports as you see under this particular link. Before, they were just a series of reports, but now we've organize them per agency comments, applicant submission of comments, documents, and plans, and what might happen at a public meeting. That all said, the vacant plan of condominium will allow for the 4 remaining potholes or pieces of title land to become boundary unit areas so that they can go forward and be built. And I think one of the key aspects, as I said, is to facilitate lending where it's required. I've cited some policy in this report. This is my usual format, from the top down, from the general to the specific, from the PPS through to the growth plan, to a small provision of overarching policy under the Dufferin County official plan, and then to our good local official plan. And the other key area is agency comments that are cited in there. Now, absolutely, there's no NVCA comments as I wrote it, but you know, we got some comments from NVCA through GSI lately today, and they've been uploaded. We're waiting for pending comments, so I believe, on the plan, on the draft plan from MBCA. And I'm sure that GSEI are working fervently with MBCA to get those comments out. My report summarizes with, I've left it general in terms of what committee may have to say about the plan of condominium, the draft plan of condominium, and any recommendations about that particular application they may want to forward on to council. It could be matters regarding the configuration of the unit boundaries or things to that effect. And I think my report reads fairly straightforward. The only other part of it, of course, is the attachment A, which is, and I cited as a first draft of draft plan to condominiums. I have no doubt these will probably get synthesized or reduced a bit. They're template set, and before they're finalized, we'll probably have a more curtailed list of draft plan of condominiums. So that's attachment A. The report and the plans attached, and that's about all I have to say. I mean, at this point, I think the consultants can say more, answer other questions the committee may have.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, David. So, David, you know the players here better than I do. Who from, Karen needs to speak, or who needs to speak now? Steve, thank you.
Sure, I'll introduce them if you want. So Karen Bennett, I suppose you're still the lead planning consultant on this project, Karen. I think, although I know Steve's been doing most of the day-to-day work and communication, certainly with me and other folks involved. Graham Cook is with Northern Gulf Design. Graham, I don't think we've had occasion to speak before. I'm not sure, but I've certainly seen your signature on documents. And again, those relate to the film management plan primarily, I think, and I'm not sure if there was anything you did with the site plan. And then, of course, Natalie Wright, whom I don't think I've met either, is the lead professional engineer who can ably speak to the film management plan, I am sure. She's from Kenya Engineering. And I don't know if I've missed him in. I think I have not. So I'll leave it between Stephen and Karen, as to who might want to make a presentation on this. I think, Stephen, you do have something, I know, so I'll let you speak to this application.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
And my apologies. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Susan has just gave me sharing ability. So thank you, everybody. Dave has introduced us, and as you know, we're here on behalf of the Mono Hills Corporation. So there, as you know, as you've heard, there are 3 active planning applications, and we had a statutory public meeting back on February 8th. So today we're providing a recap of what was presented during that meeting, as well as an update on what's changed as we've amended the applications to address the comments from the town and county as the applications have been reviewed. So for some context, the subject property is on the southeast corner of the intersection of Airport Road and 20th Side Road, and it has an area of approximately 89 acres. So this is a unique property, as Dave alluded to. It currently has a unique ownership structure. So the bulk of the property is home to a private 9-hole golf course, which was established in the 1980s. There are also a total of 9 dwellings currently on the property. Now, each dwelling owner is part owner of the Mono Hills Corporation, and the corporation owns the property in its entirety. So this means that legally, each resident does not have exclusive ownership over their own home. Instead, all owners have collective ownership over the entire property. Now, under both the official plan and the zoning bylaw, the property is permitted to have a total of 13 dwellings as of right. So 4 additional homes are permitted. So this is the vacant land condo that was referred to. Now, this isn't a typical form of condo that comes to mind when you hear that word. A vacant land condo is a type of condo where the units don't have to be constructed yet for the condominium to be registered. So we're proposing this type of condo for Mono Hills to create a condominium ownership structure for the current and future owners of these lands. The condo will create unit lines, effectively creating boundaries around the 9 existing and the 4 future permitted dwellings. And the future ones you can see are units 3, 4, 5, and 10, while the other 9 all have dwellings on them. It's important to note that this plan of condominium application does not seek to establish any new land use permissions. All this will do is change the ownership tenure. It allows each of the 13 permitted dwellings on site exclusive condo ownership over their own home, as opposed to the current corporation ownership structure. So since our original submission in September 2021, only minor changes have been made to the plan of condo in response to comments received. So first, some of the unit lines have been finessed really slightly, so much you might not even notice it if you saw the two compared. And that's just to ensure that the existing septic systems are captured within the unit lines. Second, you see there's an existing access on Airport Road over accessing Unit 3. This has been reduced. Originally, this was going to access both Unit 3 and 4. Now it's only proposed to access Unit 3 since the county is not in favor of intensifying that access. So the next application is a site plan, which was submitted concurrently in September of 2021. So this application proposes new locations for the maintenance shed for golf carts and the halfway house for common use. So to give some context, this site plan is situated in the northwest corner of the property, right near the intersection of Airport Road and 20th Side Road. So now this version of the site plan is the one that's currently on the website, but we've recently submitted a revised version with the proposed maintenance shed, which is the building farther to the west, in a different location. So essentially, we've split the site plan into 2 separate site plans as follows. So this is the site plan that's been revised to simply remove the maintenance shed and a related portion of the gravel path from this portion of the property. Nothing has been altered since the submission, it's only elements that have been removed, but everything is the same as it was in the previous version. So it was decided that we would move the maintenance shed from this part of the site because there was a more appropriate location with existing utilities connection elsewhere on the property, which I'll explain in the next slide. So this site plan application continues to show the halfway house, which is a small common building being 1 story and 10,040 square feet. It would have a small kitchen, seating area, bathrooms, and a small deck. And it'll replace the previous clubhouse, which was recently demolished. The previous clubhouse was located on what's now known as Unit 10, and it was a much larger building at 2,500 square feet. So this is the proposed site plan for the new interior location of the maintenance shed. Again, it was relocated because utilities are available and the site's already disturbed, as you'll see here. So you can see that now that we're just proposing to place the maintenance shed in place of an existing steel shed. So that steel shed will be removed and the new shed will be built right on that footprint. This makes it a really simple site plan since there are no grading or access concerns. Everything is there. We didn't need to submit engineering plans or anything like that for this version of the plan. So I will now hand it over to Mr. Cook to discuss the golf course works and the proposed variance to the fill bylaw.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Looking at this map, you can see the long-term works that the Mono Hills Golf Course would like to go under. Most of the purple areas are tees and greens that exist on the golf course right now. The reason why we're reviewing and doing work on these zones is that greens, tees, most features on a golf course have a lifespan of a number of years, and so they have to be either replaced or upgraded. And so this is what we're doing. So when we get a chance to upgrade the materials in the greens so that they work better for turf management, we also look at the design to see if we can improve the elements of the design to make the golf course more fun to play, more challenging, whatever the golf course committees would really like. So that's our expertise there, and we'll move forward with permission to enhance these greens and add better materials that will allow the golf course to extend the life of the golf course and the conditioning of the golf course through that period. So with our soil variance, you know, there's a little more topsoil needed than just the, I think it's than we would for just necessarily topsoiling the golf course. We need about 30 centimeters where all the greens are located. So we're asking for that variance to be increased in these zones, these only zones here that we're going to be working on in the future. So that's about it. We're improving the golf course. We've moved very few areas. One whole, this areas in green, you can see we're working on right now. In the top of the drawing, that green is being moved away to allow for the change to the lot line, and also possibly the, well, it was going to be the utility shed too. So that was changed a little bit. So we moved that green a little bit, but not a lot. And in the bottom right, we left that green in the same place. We just enhanced it, and we created a new corridor to allow a different way to play the hole. That's just kind of exciting. And so that was the work we're ongoing right now, and we're hoping to finish it all off. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. So in summary, all three applications have been circulated and reviewed by the applicable town, region, and conservation authority staff. Though, as you've heard, we're still waiting comments from NVCA on our condo and site point applications. Now, we've been working closely with staff, and we're confident that these applications are comprehensive, complete, logical, and supportable from a planning perspective. We haven't had a chance to review the draft condo conditions included in the staff report. And while we would like to note that there are a few conditions that we feel aren't applicable, we look forward to the opportunity of working with staff to finesse these conditions over the coming weeks. So we're happy to respond to any comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. At this point in time, it's the opportunity for the committee members to have questions and comments on this. Barbara, let's, sorry, I was going to start with you. Diane, I don't know your situation with your kids and the like. So do you want to kick this off? Are you there still?
No, I'm good. I do not want to kick it off. Thank you.
So, sorry.
I don't need to kick this off. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. No problem. I was trying to be cognizant of you know, what your needs are. So Barbara, I didn't mean to be disrespectful there. I'm going to ask you to kick this off if you can, please.
Well, my only comment or concern was that Unit 3 and Unit 4, I was concerned that both of them would have access to Airport Road, but I understand only Unit 3 does now. So that's sort of sad, well, I guess we have to wait and see what the Metro or the transportation on Airport Road makes a comment. Have you heard back from them as well? On David?
David?
You Chair Bob, there was a meeting this morning, excuse me, the Infrastructure Committee, Dufferin County Infrastructure Committee dealt with this matter. And I was able to YouTube and watch. And there was a fulsome, pretty good dialogue in my view about the benefits and the issues about keeping that entrance. I think I'm going to let Steve speak a bit more to that, or Karen. Karen made a delegation. Our good Mayor John Creelman, of course, also did. But there is an update for that. So I'll defer to Karen, I guess, at this point.
Karen, but before you say anything, I just wanted to say it's good to see you. We've dealt with many things over the years, so I hope you're well, and floor is yours.
Thank you, Bob. You're looking well yourself. Thank you, Chair McCrae and members of committee. Happy to be here today. Yes, we attended the Dufferin County Infrastructure Committee meeting this morning to ask them to recognize the existing nature of the access driveway on Airport Road. That access driveway has been there since the 1970s. It was originally established to access a house that was there up until a few years ago. It was called the Peg House. The Peg House has been since torn down. It will be replaced with another dwelling, a permitted dwelling that went through a process back in 2007 involving the town and the county. The driveway's never been closed. It's continually been used. Even recently, it's used by the current owners who have the right to build in that particular vicinity to utilize that driveway. I mean, they drive, it's my understanding, they drive in, they do some little maintenance around their property, they're planning their build and assessing the lands and whatnot. So that driveway is existing, and I was asking Dufferin County to acknowledge that. And we have a difference of opinion. They feel it needs an entrance permit. I fundamentally disagree with that, and I presented that today. When I read the county's entrance policy, there are situations within which you would require an entrance permit. This set out very clearly in that entrance policy, and this existing driveway does not meet any of those. And most particularly, we took away the proposal for Unit 4 to also access that driveway, because originally, as Stephen mentioned, we had 2 dwellings that would ultimately use this particular driveway. But in reading the entrance policy, I understand now you cannot intensify the use of the driveway, you can't improve the driveway. So we're sticking to the original permission for this driveway, which is 1 dwelling. So we're continuing to explore being able to use that driveway for 1 unit, which would be Unit 3, replacing the former Peg property in that vicinity, the Peg house in that vicinity. Unfortunately, the committee, it was a tight vote, but they voted and they presented a motion that is worded such that they shall support their Director of Public Works in his comments that suggested the access should be removed. So again, I fundamentally disagree that they have the opportunity to even require the removal of this existing driveway. I've reviewed their official plan. I presented that this morning. I don't see policy opportunity within which they would have the chance or the opportunity to require closure of the driveway. And I've reviewed the entrance policy. And again, I don't see an opportunity there. So the vote today will go to County Council on the 9th of June, and I intend to be there again. I'm hopeful that they will realize they're a commenting agency for sure to this condominium application, so they can submit their comments to you, but I don't believe they have the authority to require the closure of this driveway. So that's sort of the meeting in a nutshell from this morning. I don't know if that answers your questions.
Yeah, Barbara, you're muted. Barbara?
Yeah, thank you. I'm still somewhat concerned. And if I look at Unit 2 and Unit 1, are they going to have access to Airport Road as well?
Through Chair McCray to Barbara, yeah, Unit 2 and Unit 1 exist. They're existing homes. They share, I think they share a driveway off of Airport Road. And again, that's been there since whenever those dwellings were built. And I think they were built in the 80s or the 90s. Okay. And that actually hasn't come up with Dufferin County.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Karen. Barbara, was that everything that you had, please? Thank you. Yeah, and Karen, thank you for that. This is another thing that we got some emails about this just this afternoon. So again, it's I don't want to belabor it, but I think it's important that if we're getting stuff the afternoon of a meeting, it's not easy. Diane, are you ready now for any comments or questions? Or
Sure. I mean, I don't have too much to add. It does seem overall like a very simple application based on the information that we have. Um, how would Unit 4, though, out of curiosity, access their property? Like, how am I missing something on the map? How does Unit 4 access their property?
Through Chair McCray to member Diane, Unit 4 will have an internal driveway that takes them to the existing access into the property off of 20th Side Road. Unit 4 will have that internal access over to 20th Side Road. Unit 3 is the only unit that is, I'll say, in contention with the county at the moment to allow for that existing driveway to remain.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, from a planning perspective, I mean, it seems like you've got all the permissions that you need, and I don't really have much comment. Usually I focus more on the environmental aspects, but again, not having really read that and having just seen comments like there are no anticipated I forget the exact words. There are no anticipated negative effects on the natural heritage features, or there are environmental features. So I'm not sure if there's anything there that we need to know about, if there's any breeding grounds for anything, if there's anything in the hydrological report that would indicate that there'll be runoff. I don't know what kind into anything, but based on the information that we have, I don't see any great concern or problem with the planning aspect of it, if that is the only thing we're here for today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. Jerry, please.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think it's a pretty well thought out plan, and it makes sense. The only concern that I have is, do we have enough accesses for fire and emergency services with or without the access onto Airport Road? And I know that doesn't go to the rest of the unit, or I don't think it goes to the rest of the units. But I see Mr. Dunmore's comment is no more entrances onto 20 Side Road, and I'd like to ask the owners, and I see the town of Orangeville Fire Department didn't have a comment, but they wouldn't have a comment anyway. It would be Rosemount or Mono Fire Department or Khaled and whoever services it. So I'm kind of concerned about that. But other than that, the entrances are my concern. I think the property itself, having driven it and one thing another, is being well looked after, and the conservation authorities are dealing with it and have over the years. So I don't have any other comment with that.
Okay, thank you,
Karen,
Jerry.
maybe you can answer that, Karen. Do you think there's a need for another entrance?
Through Chair McCray to member Jerry, we're not seeking any new entrances through this proposal. So there's an existing entrance off of 20th that the majority of the units enjoy. There's an existing access off of Airport Road to Unit 3, and there's an existing access further down on Airport Road, which member Barbara mentioned, to Units 1 and 2. And I believe those are the only entrances. We're not seeking any new entrances through this proposal. Everything is there today. And you know, just to reiterate my colleague Steve's presentation, just changing the land tenure here, and through the plan of condominium process, we're required to delineate lines around what will be these units. So we've drawn lines around the 9 houses that exist. That's all we've done. And we've drawn lines around the 4 permitted dwellings on this property in locations that make sense, in locations that were actually vetted through the town and the county back in 2007 on a very high level through a concept plan. And so that's really all this condominium plan is doing, drawing lines.
No, and I appreciate that. I'm not questioning that at all. I'm just thinking down the road. You see a tornado go through like an Uxbridge or something, and you need to get fire trucks in, or you need to get hydro services in, or telephone or whoever. Is it in our best interest to look at that now? And I'm saying that only from a engineering point of view. I'm not saying that you should change anything that you're changing in the interior of it at all.
So perhaps we could just make the point to council to just confirm that the access that Jerry, that you've just talked about, is in fact adequate.
Mm-hmm. No, that's all I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah. So very good,
No,
Jerry.
that's the comment I have.
Steve, please.
Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the Orangeville Fire Department is the applicable fire department here, and they reviewed the condo application. So I think by virtue of them not having any comments, my understanding is they found the access to be acceptable.
Barbara, you were shaking your head.
Well, in this particular area of Mono, Orangeville Fire Department doesn't deal with fires in this area. In fact, it's farmed out by the town of Mono to the town of Caledon through their Mono Mills Fire Department. So
that's correct.
Actually,
it's quite confusing here as to who actually is the fire department of record.
Okay.
I actually believe it's the Rosemount Fire Department that looks after that area. Jerry, do you agree with me?
I do. I think Mono has a mutual aid with Caledon and Rosemount, and I believe Shelburne or whatever. I don't think Orangeville would have any jurisdiction at that point in time at all.
That's right.
No.
Can I sorry, David. Yes, please.
Just quickly,
David?
if I may. Generally speaking, I think 27 was their dividing line, and I don't know if they have a hard and fast map. It is, you're right, to Jerry's point, the distribution of reviews do lie between FPO, the fire prevention officer in Orangeville, Dwight Van Alstyne, and the fire chief, Mike Blacklaws in Rosemount. So normally if I inadvertently send something to Mr. Van Alstyne that should go to Blacklaws, he'll be the first to say, not in my court, Dave, send it off to Mike. That said, I'll reach out to Dwight Van Alstyne and confirm, are there any comments need to be coming from Mike Blacklaws? And if so, then I will follow up with him. But that's what the comments we got thus far. That said, whether, I don't think there's a requirement under building code, but oftentimes where there may be challenges on driveways, either FPO will say, we'd feel a whole lot better if there was fire attenuation tanks on site. Now, that's not to say this will happen here, but we can still find out from either FPO and make that a comment back through to council.
So I thank you, David. I think the easiest thing for us to say, Susan, if you record this for council, is that whichever fire department is actually responsible for this site, that they be consulted and that we get their sign off. Committees, does that make sense that we flag it that way? Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, Jerry, was that it then, please?
That's it, I think.
Thank you. And last but not least, John, please. John Riley.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to read some comments and questions into the record. And there are quite a number of questions I have, so I don't really expect answers during the course of my commentary here. But if you wish these in, they'll be on the record. But if anybody wants this material in written form, I'm quite willing to provide that as well. So the staff report refers only in passing to the 40-year history of applications on this property, which was a rural farm property like any other in its vicinity when I first visited it. In 1982-83, the Torrances applied for a golf resort on their rural farm property, which was turned down by the town, appealed to the OMB, and approved over community objections. The objections were that the resort was a subdivision by another name and not applied for appropriately. It was perceived locally that this gained the applicants special treatment to develop lands and to effectively sever land to a degree that would not otherwise be permitted. Assurances were given that nothing else would be needed, just a golf course, clubhouse, and 9 residences. In 2007, Mono Hills Corporation applied for 4 additional residences, which were granted, but which have not been built because the business model does not work from a financial point of view. Local perception remained the same, that this was further special treatment to gain even more severances where none would have otherwise been allowed. The town, the public was again assured that nothing else would be needed, and that the town, in my opinion, should not be bailing out this business's bad business model by piling on more privileges of further lot recognition. So now there are more applications which seek to formally regularize what was previously granted by the OMB as an exception by firming up former resort lots in a form of condominium private elements, effectively establishing lots of record, severances, and by seeking further road access over and above that which would not be allowed to others. All done with none of the normal development approvals that would attend a plan of subdivision on rural farmland. Questions. Why should this not be more appropriately an application for a plan of subdivision? What development charges have been levied relating to these applications over the past 40 years? And what development charges would have been paid for a plan of subdivision? For example, 13 severances would cost applicants a minimum of $39,000. And these do constitute de facto severances in the form of legal condominium elements. And we could consider as well, for example, OP amendment charges, entrance charges, etc. How does this condominium differ from a subdivision? What will be the private condominium elements of this site? And what will be the common condominium elements on this site? A map would have been useful in this regard. Based on this application, what % of the overall property would be condominium common elements, condominium private elements, and land retained by the Mono Hills Corporation? You can tell I'm a former owner of a condominium and victim of a condominium corporation. If the common condominium elements are so limited as to deal with driveways only, then what is the purpose of the condominium other than to avoid normal planning applications, such as for a plan of a subdivision? Why are the golf course and the clubhouse not considered common elements of the condominium if the original purpose of the resort status was golfing? What is the voting structure of the planned condominium? What would condominium rights extend to if the elements held in common are so very minor? Because the property is presently a single lot of record and would remain so as a condominium, why should it not conform with normal rights of access to adjacent public roads? It already has 3 road access points. Why does the provincial primary agricultural assessment not apply here when it has been used to turn down land use applications elsewhere in Mono? What will be the next application from the Mono Hills Corporation? which retains ownership of the majority of the property and of its resort function, i.e. the golf course and clubhouse, on which this resort is predicated? Will it be for more condominium lots of record? Each of these applications over the past 40 years has conveyed monetary benefits to the applicants over and above what was possible for other rural farm owners by seeking special resort status through the OMB over the objections of the community. This application deviates significantly from the original OMB decision and should be deferred or denied on that basis alone. This is a golf course subdivision, like hundreds of others, but it has presented to be something else in order to get planning approvals. In 1983, the OMB determined this to deserve a resort designation. Why is Mono now contravening that OMB decision by entertaining an alternative condominium status? Why not go back to the OMB, the OLT, and argue for or against a plan of subdivision if there's to be any change from the present resort status, which was conferred by the OMB? So I recommend that council defer a decision in order for an alternative plan of subdivision to be drafted for consideration, for development charges to be reviewed in relation to what would normally occur with severances or plans of subdivision. 3, for a review of the extent of private and shared condominium elements and their ownership and voting structure, and the relationship of these to possible requests for future municipal services and further applications for additional condominium units. And finally, to obtain legal opinion about denying this application and facing an appeal to the OLT. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me read that matter into the record.
Okay, thank you, John. And I suggest, Susan, that should be put into the record for council to see. Susan, let John know if it helps you to get a hard copy of his comments, please.
Yes.
There are a lot of points made and a lot of questions John raised, and again, I'm not sure we're going to answer those tonight. But again, in our capacity or our function as an advisory committee, I suggest that we enter that in as one member's comments, and council can consider them as best they want to consider them. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, John, that was it.
Thank you very much.
Well thought out. Thank you. And I'm last on this. I don't have John's knowledge of condominium corporations and the like. My comments were going to be that I support the application and the what has been asked for here, and that was going to be my comments to council. So I don't need to elaborate on that. Other members have also supported it, and it's all a matter of record. We're not going to. I don't believe tonight that we're going to be giving council one absolute clear recommendation, resolution, or anything like that. We're not going to be giving them a definitive, again, recommendation or resolution, but we have given them a lot of comments and a lot of things to think about, which they're going to consider in their deliberations. And I think a committee, if we're all okay with that. I think that's really the way we need to leave this. And council have got more time and more resources to pour over all of these things, and the questions that John Riley brought up, they can get answers to those things and proceed as council sees fit. And any other comments from committee members? Am I describing a good direction for tonight's meeting? Dan, thank you. John, thank you. Barbara, thank you. Jerry, I see your forehead.
Yeah, that's good. That's enough of me. It goes right to the back of my head.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think so too. I think John made excellent points though. And as a property owner in Mona Township through 2 concessions, I think if you start to make applications in one thing and another, John makes a very good point, or a number of points really, that and I have resisted all my life to take the lots off in one thing and another. I just don't think it's right, but it doesn't really be fair for somebody else to go and take 100 acres and do whatever they want with in an agricultural community. So I'm not trying to make big thing of that. I'm really not, but it's certainly what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and I think council has to be aware of that.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I mean, it exists now. It's already there. It's not going to go back to Jerry. You're not going to be taking a combine up there anytime soon. Nobody's going to be planning. But
within
Sorry.
Within 72 hours, I cultivated 60 acres right behind it. So, and where that last application was. So no, I don't agree with that at all. And people, and this is kind of a lecture, but if you look at September, if we're not into food insecurity in this world, I'll do a very funny, very strange thing. So
yeah,
my feeling on that, and you know where I am.
Yeah, Jerry, I didn't mean to be flippant. The property is there with a golf course and with 9 homes and that, and I don't understand all the legalities of changing the the condo thing.
Bob, you also know my feelings on that, and in the 80s and the 70s and the 80s, there was lots taken off up and down my road, right across from me, and one thing another, 10-acre lots that went right to the back. And nobody is using that land at all. And so we've got to be smarter at planning in one thing and another. And so John makes the points that we better listen to what's happening.
Yeah,
that's all.
Very good points, Jerry. And I agree with you. David, you've had your hand up for a bit, please. Thank you for your patience.
Through you to Member Riley, John, if you don't mind, if you would put those comments in summary form in an email to me, I would be most appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, and so we'll include that in the minutes of tonight's meeting then. All right. Well, I think that concludes that issue. I think, and I'm John Creelman, I see you're still there. I'm not going to ask you for comments. I hope that you've got enough, or council has enough there that you can proceed. I have said it before, and Karen, you've seen many meetings where I've chaired them. I'll say it again tonight. I am always proud of the various planning committees over the years, because I know that we have given all kinds of different councils very, very good advice, well thought out, not treating things lightly, and I think that we have done the same thing tonight. So I thank the committee for that. John Creelman, I see you're unmuted. Does that mean you want to make any comments, John Creelman?
Well, I don't, but I'm a bird on the wire, and I appreciate the opportunity to be part of this meeting. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you, John. All right, with that, that ends. Karen and Steve and Graham, thank you for your participation here and clarifying things. So thank you. It's good to see you all. That you're going to get to do this again with council. David, when does council see this? Is it on an agenda yet?
No, not yet. I would like to see some more fulsome comments from the NVCA, and I am certainly going to have read through Mr. Riley's comments at the same time. Beyond that, we have to work on the site plan application, get a draft agreement. That's going to be in front of council. They need to give us instruction if they choose to do so, to execute that agreement if it goes forward. And I suppose also if there's going to be an update on the FMP related works, not sure at this point. I doubt it'll go to June at this point. We're already with a full agenda for the 14th. I'm guessing the 28th is getting full, but you know, I've got a target for sometime in the foreseeable future. I mean, as was noted, this was going to be going to June, but we pulled the stops out to get it on for May 26th on a committee tonight. So I will advise you, Chair McCray, as to when we can foresee this going forward to council.
Well, that's just a curiosity on my part, because as of tonight, planning committee, we've done our job. If the council wants to send anything back for our comment, that's fine. But I think we've given them enough that council can do what they're getting paid to do, and they'll make their decisions. So we'll leave it at that. So very good. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. The committee, we're going to carry on with a couple of other things. So others, David?
One point of clarification, then, is committee going to embrace the comments that Member Riley has cited, or will they stand in his alone?
I think that
as a recommendation response from committee.
I don't think so. I think that those just need to be entered into the record as comments made by one member. Does that make sense, John Riley?
I would second every one of them. I will second every one of those.
So
I think it's more.
Jerry is trying to say something.
Yeah.
I think it's more than one member. I think it's John makes comments for ratepayers in Mono Council and or Township, and I think we all need to hear those comments. And I would certainly second them.
Okay. Well, other committee members, what do you, how do you want to? I mean, I support passing all of those on to council for their consideration.
We are providing advice to council, and council will, look through the materials and take what is germane. And I mean, some of my remarks may be entirely misplaced, but that's because I didn't have possibly full access to all 35 documents and all the historical materials. So
yeah, no, John Riley, Jerry, I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily support all of the things that you said, John, but I think that everything you said is important for council to consider. So that's I wouldn't want to put that forward as a resolution, but if somebody wants to do that and see if you can get enough votes for it. But I'd rather just have it entered in and with Susan, you could say that there was support from other members, and that's pretty vague, but I'm not going to speak for Diane or Barbara on that. I'm more comfortable with just having that in the record as one member's comments on it. Does that make sense, everybody? Oh, okay, thank you. So that's the way that will be good points and that. So, all right. That I think that ends that. David, I can't think of anything else on this. We've made our comments, and that, so there's enough for council to consider.
We'll refer to the minutes and the comments, specific comments to various elements. Some I know Diane made. I know those are really the purview of Dufferin County. And then of course those that John made as well as others. So.
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, with that, I'm going to move along with the rest of our meeting. Our point number 8, which is active. Oh, yep. Karen, Steve, Graham.
Thank you.
Go have a
Many
beer,
thanks,
or a
everyone.
glass of wine, or whatever's exciting on TV tonight.
I just wanted to thank you all. As volunteers, your job's very, very important, and we appreciate all your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Thanks. Very good. So moving along, active planning applications. Dave, this meeting's gone longer than I expected. So is there? I know there are quite a few on there, but are there any that we really need to be actively aware of that we should highlight tonight? If not, then
No, there's a body of site plan applications which generally don't come to committee. I mean, the one note I will say is that we are trying to finalize the agreement with the Hilton Hotel. That seemed to come to its merry conclusion, and you know, will be some substantial. The issue of DCA's come up tonight. I can tell there will be substantial DCA fees as part of that application. If and when it reaches the finish line, I have no reason to believe at this point it will not. There's some policy stuff we're still working on, again, with respect to visual impact guidelines that came up through the Monster Home Initiative. Those are ongoing. We're trying to get that back to a committee if need be, although we've had some dialogue about that where it might just need to go forward to council. No, nothing at this point, nothing that would come to committee shortly, no.
Yeah. No, David, regarding the Monster Home issue, we had a good meeting about that. We made some good suggestions to council and supported. I remember that the current regulations or the current standards are as good or better than Caledon's or King Townships and whatever. I think we've given council everything they need, and they need to proceed with that now. We had, I think one good recommendation, John Riley. I think it was you that about consultation. If somebody's going to build one of these things, then there needs to be more talk about it. That was one of the things that we said. So I just, David, I don't see that coming back to this committee. I don't know what else we would say.
That's fine. It was John's idea for visual impact assessment guidelines. We're looking at that, and that will go forward to council.
No, council can sort this out now. We've given them some good opinions and advice. So with that, number 9, any other business? Anybody? That's that. Anybody, anything else to say tonight? Other than me saying thank you to everybody. This wasn't easy. And you could tell at the beginning, I frankly got blindsided there. I learned something tonight. Next time we get one of these packages, I'm going to ask more questions. To make, Diane, I see you nodding. I'm going to ask more questions to make sure that, and I will take that on as a responsibility to make sure that if there's 35 documents and 100 pages of stuff, that the committee knows, hey, you should look at this, including myself, because I did not. I'm going to do that tomorrow or some other time.
Or Mr. Chair, the alternative is that those 35 documents get summarized sequentially in the planning report that says the following materials are up online, and then offers a summary of each of them that's germane and invites comments from us or from others, so that perhaps we don't have to look through all 35 documents if in fact it's distilled properly,
Yes.
so that we can we can make the decisions that are being asked of us, rather than those minutia that need to be dealt with in the hundreds of pages.
John, I think that may be just about the best suggestion that we've heard tonight. So, and I mean that sincerely. That's what we need, because you know, with Diane with 3 kids and me with a freezer that's broken, and Jerry, how many acres you had to plow today, and Barbara and John, all the many things that you have to do. And we need that, and I'm going to say it again. We said it before. We need all of that, and that summary. You know, that's an excellent suggestion, but we need it much more in advance than the Friday before a Thursday meeting. So I'm going to keep saying that until I'm not on this committee anymore. So we have an election coming up this fall. Yes, Barbara.
Well, just one other point. I didn't get that email till about 6 o'clock today. And I got John's email before. I really think that this stuff needs to be thought. Well, I mean, it needs to be sent out a lot sooner than it actually is. Internet up here is not the best.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But I did get that email around later. Well, they had it at 3 o'clock. I didn't get it till way after dinner.
I like to tell people who are visiting me that we should walk up to my north field, from which I can see clearly over the Oak Ridges moraine, and I can see the CN Tower. And then I point out to them that, you know, if I'm in Iqaluit or Inuvik, my broadband, my accessibility and the usefulness of my equipment is just, it's nothing in comparison with what other people have come to expect in Canada.
I had an instance where at the Pan Am Games, where they were filing newspaper reports from the farm, Will-O-Wisp Farm.
Right.
They were all set to start sending all kinds of emails, and I said, good luck on that. And nobody had bothered to check out the fact that they did not have that type of internet service up here.
Right.
It's crazy. My grandson is in Iqaluit. He has better cell phone service. Well, we don't have cell phone service here.
I don't get CBC radio. Talk about internet.
Oh my.
And it's hard to convince somebody from Bell who is, I guess, answering your problems from India that it doesn't exist in North America. You know, I mean, it's ludicrous.
As an aside, I think this is a technical issue, but I didn't get John's email at all, and he sent it to committee. I didn't get it. It's not in my junk folder. It's nowhere. I only saw it when David replied, and then I saw it beneath his email. So I don't know how that happened, or if that's a technical issue. I don't think, it doesn't seem like an internet issue.
This is why I rely on Susan dropping off an envelope in my mailbox, because then I know at least I got that and I can deal with everything that's in that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hey, and I'm here in a subdivision. I've got Rogers Ignite 500. I'm getting 500 megabytes per second download and 22 upload. You know,
see, we're the peasants who live out here in Mono, right? And you are the privileged elite who live in, operate out of the Mono town offices, which have fiber optics.
Yeah, John, listen, but I'm on 3/4 of an acre and you're on a lovely rural property. So
On a
given-
good day, that fiber optic, John, on a good day.
anyhow,
EIS was down today, matter of fact.
we've kept everybody long enough. It's either time for me to have a beer or some of this lovely Macallan scotch. So
The McAllens.
I'll
I
take
vote
some of
McAllen.
that.
I put it to a vote.
yeah. So
Thank you very much,
with that,
everyone.
does somebody want to move that we adjourn so that we can all move on to whatever and that.
I
With
moved
that-
the scotch.
Moved by Jerry to
I second.
adjourn, and Diane, I'm going to take it. You're nodding there. I'm going to say that you second it. So with that, everybody, listen. Great job tonight. Really good job. And that thank you as always, Susan and David. Thank you, despite all of what I've said, which I mean, David, you know. So, but we'll carry on, and I think we've given council enough that they can do their job with what we've given them now.
So if you want to